The other day on my blog, somebody asked me how to do a paper hinge because I'd referenced using one to stick a piece of paper into my journal. It's really very simple, and I'm just going to go over it now. Let's say that this is a piece of artwork. It's actually just a piece of painted watercolor paper. But if I perhaps had a photo that was something I wanted to save, or maybe I was out and about and I was working on loose sheets of paper and for whatever reason wanted to stick them in my journal afterwards, but I wanted both sides to be visible, what I would do is stick it into my journal, but I don't want to just stick it in flat because I want what's on the back to still be visible. I would use a paper hinge. And the way I do this is I cut pieces of paper that are lightweight Japanese paper that have strong fibers, and oftentimes these are handmade papers and the grain doesn't matter, but if it is a machine-made paper and there's a grain, then you want the grain to run in the direction of the fold. So if I was going to hinge like this for things to lift up, I'd want the direction to be this way, okay? And you cut your paper appropriately. It will depend, how much overlap you have will depend on what's on this side and what's on that side. You want enough overlap to make it hold securely, but not so much that it obscures most of your image or whatever it is. And you want enough on this side of the paper to actually stick down and adhere it to there, to your book. You want to have it away from your hinge because it'll gum things up, it'll make things wider here, and it can crack your spine. Also, if you're at the end of a signature and the start of a new signature, it can actually pull those two apart. So I usually put them in a little bit, and then you want it away from the edge. And the other thing that you have to take into consideration is if my book just flops open, what's this going to do? This is going to flop like that, but when I close my book, it's going to close naturally. But if I put it over here, hinge on this side, and it flops open, when I close the book, it'll be sticking out. So on this page, if I wanted to add a hinge, I'd want to put it over there. So my basic rule of thumb, in other words, is to hinge on the side that's nearest the gutter. Okay? That said, all you have to do is glue this out. I'm using my last stick of Yoo-Hoo, purple Yoo-Hoo glue stick. I don't know what I'm going to do when this is gone in about 3 days. I haven't found a replacement that doesn't smell. I'm going to just set this a little bit, overlapping this, enough so that it will hold it in place, as I mentioned, and this is cut exactly the same height as the piece you're inserting. I've got it where I want it, and then I push it down and smooth this into place. Smooth out all the little potential wrinkles. You can take a bone folder and smooth it to this edge here so it's nice and crisp. Okay, really get it adhered. Now, you're not done yet. You're going to flip it over and you make sure that this is pushed as flat as possible. So you won't see any of the paper hinge here. Okay, you don't want it to be sloppy. Then you're going to take another sheet of hinge paper, whatever you've decided to use, and you're going to glue that out. And you're going to place it so it aligns at the bottom. And if there's things that you're worried about covering on the other side, then you would just make sure that you have it closer in or further out, however it's going to be. My hands are all sticky from glue now. I usually have a rag next to me to do that. I'm going to push with my bone folder gently against this flat edge here, and then I'm going to smooth my paper hinge up. but I want it to be nice and tight right where it joins. And you know, you'll find certain papers you like to do this with and other ones you don't. There'll be a little bit of stretch. And I got a little bit, so this is actually a little bit long now, but okay. Then, when that's the way you want it, you're going to take this piece of wax paper, it'd be nice if it was an even tear, and stick that right in here so that the glue from the hinge doesn't cause the paper to stick where you don't want it. And you're going to take another piece of wax paper, and then you're going to close the book, and you're going to wait it for a couple of hours until the glue dries. When that's dry, and you take these out, you've now got your piece hinged right in there. And there you go. If you start doing a lot of this, you'll want to cut some pages out of your book, and you'll do that by leaving a tab and keeping that thickness at the spine. But you're taking out the page thickness for the rest of the book, and that will allow you space to have the collage material. And by keeping the tab, when you cut out a page, by keeping the tab, you're going to have the other opposite page not fall out. Here's another example of the use of a hinge with a large art postcard. And you can see that I've cut it in a little bit shorter than the height. Otherwise they don't turn. So you either need to cut it flush or shorter. And you can also get kind of messy. For reasons I don't remember, I used washi tape on this memorial program from a friend's memorial service. Now this is kind of experimental because washi tape doesn't really stick long term as far as I've been able to determine, so this will probably start to become brittle and fall out. You have to be flush, and I did extra tape because I wanted to reinforce the weakness of the tape, and that's why there are cross tapes here. But you'll see that the essential hinge part is flush with the top and bottom of the program.